Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Doctor. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Very good morning, very good afternoon, all students doing here. This is Dr. Hussein. Today we will try to continue with our previous lecture. So last time we have covered the concept of friends. So as we have mentioned that you have three cases. uh, a function that could be a friend for the class, and this function could be standalone or a member function of another class. The third one is the class will be a member or a friend of another class. So today we'll continue with pointers and objects. So basically, I think it's not new. You are familiar with these concepts. Just we recap here. So basically, when you define a pointer in whatever your pointer, if type integer, float, and any type, you just mention the type of this pointer, and you have to use the asterisk, then the name. So this is the basic syntax for any pointer. So in our case, this is class. So we have a pointer of type class. Then how to access, this is the main point, how to access the content of this pointer, because pointer is just address that will be used to point for the heap memory. So how to access the data through this pointer, we have uh, different way. So you can see here first, after we define the pointer, you need to give address. So I'm pointing to this object here. So now I have the address of this object. Now I need to access the content. So how? Using the pointer, you can use this symbol, or this is another way to access the data. All right. So to access the member function, to access the whatever, to access the class data using the pointer. So in order to print out, so we are using this symbol with pointers. So this is declaration just, this is pointing or assigning a pointer. Then we have two ways to access or to call to access member function, to access the data, and so on. All right, any question before I move to the second slide? I think you are familiar with these concepts. Okay. So we just to revisit the concept of variable, yeah, it is contain a data in the case of variable, but pointer will have address. So you have to be aware about this. Declaration of pointer doesn't create an object. Those no constructor will be executed as I show you previously. So in case of this definition, the constructor will not be called, but in that case, this is object and this is pointer. So you have to be able to differentiate between these two syntax. So there is no object here, and here we have an object, right? So the following declaration, you have to be aware about this. You cannot call a function using this definition. So this is doesn't work. You don't use this parentheses. All right, you may think this is default constructor, but this is wrong. All right, so in fact, the compiler assume this is a function named b. So the compiler will assume this is a function, is not a pointer, which return pointer of type rectangle. So in case this is function, this function will return a pointer, this will be okay. But if this is your main pointer, this will be wrong. Right? Any question? Okay. So this is example here. How to use the pointer. So at the beginning, I will define my pointer, and then for pointers, you need to allocate the memory for that object. So how to allocate memory using the new. So I'm allocating one instance of type rectangle in the heap memory. Then I need to access the member function using this symbol. So I'm accessing the setter, the width, the length. After finishing, you have to call the destructor, delete that pointer, because dynamic memory will be on the heap, and if you use a lot in your program, you will be out of memory. Unless you shut down your program, the memory will be released. So you have to release, you have to return to the null case for your pointer here, right? Okay, so in case of arrays of object, it's the same concept in any type of data. You have to use the array symbol shown here. So you are allocating here 40 objects of type infantry. So your memory will have chart, which is pointer still. So we have 40 pointers in the, not in the heap, in the stack. These pointers will allocate a memory, right? So this is the function. So the default constructor for object used in array is defined. So in case of array now, which constructor will be called in that definition? So basically here I have three constructors. This is the default one. This one will take an input of type array. This one will take an array plus we have double, we have integer. So in that case, the default one will be called. Okay, so the default constructor in case of defining an array. But in case you want to call this one, what you have to do, if I need to initialize my array, this is empty, but in case you need to initialize with this constructor, what you have to do. So you can see in the next slide, must use initializer less to invoke the constructor that takes an argument. In that case, you have to use the curly bracket for the initialization of array. So I have three objects now. So now this is my first object, and this is the second one, and this is the third one. So which constructor now will be called? We have three in the previous slide. We have three constructors here. The first one without parameters, which is the default one. The second one with one parameter only, 0, and this is 3. So basically, this one will be called. All right, so you can see here if constructor. So in that case, in this example here, I will call the second constructor. But if I wanna call this one, so in that case, I need to pass 3 input. Okay, so you can see in this example, if constructor require more than one argument, the initializer must take from the function call. So you can see here, I have 3 objects still, the same here. But now the first one, you can see the definition here. Inside, I have to call the constructor from inside. So now, which one I'm calling here? I'm calling the constructor with 3 parameters. For all, I need to call the constructor. So you have to be aware about the syntax.
Sir,
Yeah.
the inventory array on the left side, which one does it call? Which constructor does it use?
You see how many parameters here?
No, the one on the left.
This one.
Yes.
This one infantry. But it comes here now. We have another assignment here. Basically, without this one, you will call the default one. In the first one, this one, you will call the first one. Okay, but empty. This one is empty. Then you need to call different constructors and you assign, right? So basically, we have to call first the default constructor, then we need to call others one by one. I'll show you in the coding what's going on. But I need to finish this one. Okay, in case of different constructors, you see here, I have three objects still, but I'll call here. You see here, I am not calling the constructor directly. I am passing one value, meaning that this automatically will be called with one parameter in the first and the third case. But in the second case, I want to call this one. Okay, so I have to use the keyword infantry item. Okay, so object in an array using how to access these objects. I need to access object 2. So what's the correct syntax? So this is object 2. Inside this array, I have to use the dot. So the dot will be used to access the array. So object 2, I want to change the unit to be 30. So this one will be changed to 30. This is the initial one, and this is after updating. So you can print out in object 2 the value of get unit. All right. Let me show you this example in the editor. This is it. All right. So I have to move to the editor. Okay, this is my class here. All right, so this is my class here. Class infantry, what I have inside the class infantry, I have the private section. Inside the private section, I have three variables. The first one is pointer. The second one is the cost, which you type double. The third one is the units of type integer. So this is the public section here. So the public section is here. We have the default constructor. Then we have constructor with one argument or with one parameter. The third one with three. And this is the destructor here. So this is no need here. Okay, so this is my constructor. So now I'll try to make an array of this type. So this is the type, then it is my array, I will call it whatever, of three objects. So now inside the constructor, I will just print out which constructor is called. Okay, so I'll try to print out here. Cout. Okay. This is default constructor. This is the default constructor. Okay. This is default constructor. Right. In line here. In the second one, I just print out without further implementation. Just print out this constructor is called. This is second constructor. And the last one is here. I just print out the implementation here. So okay, this is the third constructor. This is the third constructor. So no need for the destructor. I just execute here. Let's error here. We have comma. Here's this public section. I no need this one. This one no need here. This one no need. Okay. And still we have error. No need for the destructor. ID was shine here. Okay, infantry. Okay, so this is default constructor called 3 times because I have 3 objects. If I have 10, then the default constructor will be called 10 times. All right, so 10. Okay, so this is the first case. As mentioned in the slides here, the default constructor used when array is defined. This is just definition. You allocate memory in the stack. Okay, so in the second case here, I have to call this constructor. So I'm calling second constructor. So I'll copy here, initialize equal. Okay, so I'll execute here. So 3 times should be called. We have the second constructor 2 times. I have 10. Sorry, this one should be 3. All right. So the second constructor will be called. Clear this point? No default constructor, so only 1 time. In the third case, this one, I will call the infantry item and I will pass parameters. So I will call the constructor from inside here. So then I will pass the parameters. So I have the name. What else I have? Okay, we have the unit. We have the cost and unit. Okay, this is cost. This is unit. Just example here. Okay, so now I'm calling. Yeah, let me make it 2 to clear this idea. Not 2, 4, sorry, 4. So now I have 4 objects. The first one will call the third constructor because I'm passing 3 parameters. The second one will call the second constructor. This one no need here. Okay, I have one more, which is the default. So now I'm expecting that this one will be called first, then this one, then this one. Okay. Okay, so the third, then the second constructor, then the default constructor. Clear this idea? Based on the number of objects you have to call. All right, any question before I move to the second part? Any question here? You can call any constructor you wish. You can update, of course, with the setter. If I implement the setter here, so I will update the values. So I'm selecting the first one here. I'll update the unit. So I need the setter. So I will void set units. Set units. What I have here, yeah, set units. Yeah, right. So This is my function will return nothing, and it will take an input of type integer. So what I have to do inside, I have to make the units here. This is the variable units equal the received value, which is u here. Okay, so we need the getter after the setter. We need the getter here. So we need to get the units. So this is getter. Getter will return what? Will return of type integer. So it will receive void, and sorry, we are closing. This is our closing. We need to return the units. So I need to print out after that. I need to make cout. You see here you have cout. Yeah, this cout. Get units for the first object here. So I'm updating here. Okay. So units equal. Okay, so I'll execute now. After updating, I will make this one 30. So before, in order to check, before you set, you can check before. So we need inline here. This is our inline. I'll execute. Sorry, what's wrong here? Units, infantry. It's infantry one. Sorry, it's infantry item. My array. Sorry, this is my object here. My array of 1. My array of 1. Okay, this is also my array of the first object. Okay, so at the beginning is 1. Units is then 30. Sorry, in the case of arrays, we index with 0. The first one will be 0 here. Okay, so I'll execute. Sorry, this is 4 2. Sorry, we don't have any initializer here. Yeah, right, this is right. Just rubbish. Okay, any question before I move back to the slides? Is it okay how to call different constructor using array? Okay, clear at this point? All right, so I move to the second concept, which is about objects and functions. So objects as function parameters, when you pass an object, I think we already discussed this point. We have 3 cases of passing objects passed by value. When you pass the whole object as it is, so you are passing copy in that case. In the second case, you are passing by reference, so you are giving the address of that object. In the third case, it's passed by reference, but now as a pointer. Okay, so let us see here what's going on. This is the first scenario, passing by value. So what you have to do in the main, this is my class circle. Inside the class, I have a private section. We have the radius here, then we have the constructor. The constructor will take this value. So this is constructor with one parameter will set the radius of the circle. Then we have the getter and the setter. All right, so this is get area, this is get the radius. So this calculation for the area. Okay, so this is implemented. This is different function, standalone function outside the class. Okay, so I'm defining an object AB and I'm passing parameters. So I'll call the constructor here. So I set the value 5.5 for the radius. Then I need to print. So I'm passing this object to a standalone function, which is here. So this function will receive an object of type circle, but now I'm passing by value. So value, there is no address, no pointer. Okay. In the second one, this is still passing by value. Also, you can pass from the main. You can call many times. You have here count, my count, you pass my count, increment, you make increment. But in that case, what you will get here, this is the initial value will be 0. When you call this object, the initial value for the number will be 0. So this is the initial value. Right now, if I print out this one, I'll get 0. I'll make increment from this function, which is outside the class, but the problem that I'm passing by value. So it will be 0 at the end. Okay, let me show you. I think you are familiar with this passing by value. Just I will repeat what you already studied before. So this is the class count here. Okay, I'll take the class first, then the function. Okay, this is my class here. Okay, so what's inside my class? I have the public section here. Sorry, it's public integer. Because it's not friend function. Now, you cannot access this attribute if it's private. So I have to make it public. So here, just for illustration. So now I can access this through the object because it's public. And this is standalone function outside the class. All right, so this is increment here, this is the end. So in the main, what we have to do, we have object of my account here. Okay, so first I am creating an object here. So the constructor will be called. So this constructor will be called because I'm passing by no, it's the default constructor. I don't pass anything here. So after that, this is my for loop will be here. Okay, so I need to print out. All right, so I will execute here. So it's 0, still 0. So if you print before the for loop here, this is end line here. So there is no change in the value 0, 0. Okay. So what's the solution? You have to pass by reference. So you have to receive a reference here for this object in order to be able to update. So you can see now I will get 0, 10. Okay. So it will be 10 now. Clear this idea, passing by value and passing by reference. All right, so the third one here, this is passing by reference. So you have just use the symbol of the reference. Okay, so this is passing by reference. So the third one is passing by reference, but as a pointer. your object will be pointer. So meaning that what you have to do, you have to receive as a pointer, and you have to use the address here. So you have to do two things here. Okay, so if I return back to my code, okay, so I will pass as a pointer, so I'm passing the address, and here I receive as a pointer. So now you'll see 0, 10. It's the same. Sorry, this one, yeah, you need to change. You have two syntax. The first one, you have to use the axis as a pointer now. So this is the first representation. So you will receive 0, 10. The second representation, how to access the content of pointer. So it will be using the dot, but you have to mention that this is pointer. So executing now. Okay, 0, 10. Clear this idea, how to pass the values. Any question before I move to another topic?
Doctor,
Yeah,
passing by value, passing by reference, and passing by pointer, are they the same? There's no difference?
passing by pointer.
Pointer, yes, like in the definition of the function. We put a pointer, and the other one we put a reference.
Yeah,
So is there any difference between them?
between what? This one, this representation, and what?
Yes,
The address one like this.
yes, using the reference and using the pointer in the definition.
No difference. You just pass the address at the end of the day. Here, I'm expecting to receive address. Yeah, there is no difference. Once you mention address, you are expecting that you receive address. Here, pointer, I'm expecting to receive pointer, not object. This is not correct. So what I have to do, I have to change here, not the object, I'll send the address of this object. Clear at this point?
Yes, clear.
Okay. All right, so any question before I move to another topic, which is how to return an object from a function? No question. I think this is the last idea, how to pass by as a pointer. All right, so I have to continue. Okay, so return object from function. So now, how to receive an object from a function? So here we have a class. This is my class name here. This is a private section. I have two variables, x and y, and I have a function here. This is member function of this class. It's public. What's the return type of this function? It is a class. It's the same class. All right. So inside this function, I don't receive anything here. It's void. So what I have to do, I have to create an object here. So this is temporary object inside the function. Then I have to read input from the user. I have to set x and y. So because now I'm inside this function and I can access these two private values, and then this is my object temp. I will set x plus 2. I'm increment with 2. I multiply with 3. Right? I access with dot. So once this object is created, I have to return back to the caller. So I have another function here, which is just to display the content here. So I'm display what's x and what's y. So this is member function. Yeah, you can access directly because it is member function. All right. So in the main, what you have to do, you have to create an object. You are calling the default constructor. Then you have to call this function. So you are calling this function through object. So I'm using the dot. But this function will return what? Will return an object. All right. So now these values will be given for object 2, not object 1. Right? Object 1 just will call the function. So the values of object 1 will be 0, the default one, if we assume 0, 0. So if we display object 1, object 2, so the values will be given for object 2. Clear at this point? Before I move to the editor.
Can you explain again?
Okay, so what's happening here? At the beginning, this is just a class. Inside the class, I have a function. This function will create an object, new object. I will get an object from this function. In the main, this line just will create two object, default constructor, right? This is default constructor. The initial value of x, y will be the default, 0, 0. Right now, nothing new right now. But now, this object 1 will call this function. What's the output? The output will be object. So this object will be given for object 2, not object 1. Object 1 just the caller, but the output will be returned to object 2. Okay, let me show you in the coding. Okay, so this is my class here. This is my class here. What I have inside the class, I have the private section, so I have two integers. Then I have the public section here. So this is the public section. So inside the public section, I have a function. So this is a function will return a class of the same type. Okay, so inside this function, what I have a new object. So I'm calling the constructor, the default constructor, to give me temporary object. So with this temporary object, I will set the values of x and y. So I'm reading x, then reading y here. So after that, I have to set the values. I will increment with 2, then I will multiply with 3. All right, so I will return the object. And this is another function that will display. So just display. So from the main, what I have to do in the main here, I have to create an object first, then I have to read, I will display. So I'm creating two objects, then I'm calling the read, I'm display two objects. So executing now. So 1, 1. So this is x, 1, 1, x, y. You see now, 1, 1 for the first object. The second object will be, so let me call this one first. Okay, object 1. I see object 1. Okay, before this, to make it clear for you, I will display object 1, just object 1, without object 2. So I'm calling object 1 and display the content. So display the content of object 1, 0, 0. This comes from the default constructor. If I execute another time, it's still 0, 0. All right, so object 2, I'll create object 2. I'll call object 2. So To make it clear for you, I'll make C out here. This is object 2. So object 2. Okay, just display.
That is type 2.
Sorry?
0 object 1. The class name.
Display object 1. Okay, object 1. Sorry. Yes, right. Thank you. So I will call now just what's in object 1 and object 0, 0, all zeros. All right, so now I will, without return value, I'm calling with object 2. Let me make it clear for you before and after. So I'll display first, then I'll call read data here. So I need to display after what's going on with object 1. So object 1 after. So this is object 1 after. This is object 1 before here. Okay, so I will execute. So now it will display at the beginning here, will display the content of object 1. Then I'm calling read data, which will be 1, 1. So it will set for object 1. So now object 1, because I call this, so I'm setting x, temporary y, c and x. Because of this, if I stop this one and this one, I'm setting x from here for object 1. If I make this equal what? Equal 2 for the temp. You have to differentiate. Now I have x, y for object 1, but I have temp here. So this is 3. So what's expected now if I return back execution? So 0, 0 at the beginning. It is 0, still object 1, please input. So object 1 after, it's still 0, 0, because the temp, I'm changing the temp here. Okay, so now if I give this output to object 2, now I will give the output for object 2 here. I'm not changing the values of xy because this one, xy, belong to object 1, but this one belong to temp. So I need to return back the temp, 2, 3. So object 2 must be 2, 3 here. So let me make it before and after to make it clear for you. This is object 2. This is before here, and this is after calling. So now I will call the function through object 1. Then I will update object 2. So you will see now 0, 0, then we have 2, 3. Right? You get the idea? But in the first case, now I'm setting the values of object 1. So object 1 will get the keyboard input, then I'm adding. That's why I'm adding different. Object 2 will be different. Object 1 plus 2. Object 1 here, y times 3. So now you will see now object 1 will get the input from the keyboard. Object 2, this will be object 2. Okay, so if I execute now here, I need to read from here. So now object 2 will be after because I already updated. Okay, so now I'm giving values for object 1. Object 1 will be 2, 2. Now object 2 will be 2 times 2 plus 2, 4. 2 times 2, 4, 4. for 6 times 3. Right? Clear this idea now? Clear how to call? Once you call the object, the caller will take the values of x, y. Okay, now the key idea here, how to return an object from this function. Okay, any question before I move to another idea? Yeah.
Why x and y in the initial values are zero?
The constructor, because it's constructor. Sometimes it will give you 0, sometimes not 0. But
Oh,
if you need to control more, you can give values for the. It's not always 0.
do we have a constructor here?
Yes, of course, default constructor. We have constructor, yeah, of course. If you print out these values, you see, yeah, constructor must be there. Constructor always must be there because it will allocate the memory for your object.
I mean,
Okay.
where is the constructor in the code? I can't see it.
Yeah, but compiler will give you a constructor.
So the compiler will initialize the values for x and y.
Yeah, and
Okay.
random. If
Okay.
you return back to, we have default constructor in the case of, if you return back to the slides and constructor, yeah, default constructor will comes from, you have to differentiate between default constructor that is programmed here. This is my default constructor here. So this is default constructor without any input. And the second case, if no constructor at all, there is constructor comes from the compiler. Because you need constructor to build this object. Without constructor, there is no object. Okay?
Okay.
Sir,
Uh-huh.
the temporary is an object.
Uh-huh.
It's an object from the class, right?
Yeah, from the same type of the class.
Okay.
But it can be any object. If you wish another class, it's same. The main point here, how to return an object from a function. This is the key idea. Return object from function. Okay. Any question before I move on another idea? No question? Okay, we comes to another concept here, which is operator overloading. So what do we mean by operator overloading? If you remember the overloaded constructor, we define multiple constructors with different parameters or different type. But here the concept is different. I want to change the behavior of the operator. So we know this is operator used for assignment. Object 1 equal object 2. This one for, it's the plus, adding two objects. But in the case of objects, you cannot say here object 1 plus object 2. You cannot add two objects. So in my case here, if I want to say object 3, this is object 3. Object 3. Object 3 will be equal object 1 plus object 2. I want to add x plus x, y plus y. But this is, you cannot do it in the case of objects. So this is error. Clear? Now what's the solution? I need to override. I need to define this plus. I need to make it applicable in the case of objects. Because in the case of integers, floats, the default types, it's okay. But in the case of objects, you cannot add two objects together. So what's the solution now? The solution is to override. This is the key idea. How to override these operators? You need to redefine them in order to be able to make this kind of assignment or addition, subtraction, and so on. So this is the key idea why we need overloading. Overloading basically is to redefine these operators to be used with objects. So the name of the function. So how to do it now? In the case of plus, you have to use the keyword operator. Then you have to define your operators. So they come together, concatenation together, no space in between. So this will represent the plus. We are looking for the plus here. And this will represent the equal. Okay, this is just prototype here. Inside your implementation, you have to do it manually. You have to add x1 plus x2 equal x3, y1 plus y2 equal, and so on. This is just the prototype here. So prototype for overloaded goes in the declaration of the class overloading it. So overloading definition goes with other member function. I'll show you with the coding here. This is just the definition of operator. So what you have to do, this is the syntax. No return. So there is no return value. You have to use the keyword operator together with the operator that you want to overload. So this will be together the name of your function. This is the name of your function. And this one, you have to stick to this syntax. You have to use the constant keyword, then the name of the class or object that you want to overload, and the address. So this is very similar to the copy constructor. You need to change the behavior, so you have to follow this syntax. Okay? So now the operator is called via object on the left. So this object, the object will call this function. So now I call object1, is object1 dot, I want to call this function. So it will be just operator, the same name, equal. Then I will pass object2. So now object1 dot object2, this will be very similar to object1 equal object2. If you have this prototype, you can use this directly, or plus here. You can make addition and return back the object you want to return. Okay, so this is a key idea. Now, how to make these operators work with objects. So you need to define this overloading. So operator, you can see object1 will call the function. This is plus or equal. This is object2. It's very similar to object1 equal. So you can use both. This one is okay, and this one is okay. Right? Okay, so now this is conventional manner. We have an example here for overloading. So what you can see here in this example, this is the overloaded operator here. So void equal, so this is my operator here, will return void and will receive, this is constant inside the definition. This is the type of the class that you want to override, and here the address. Okay, so I'll show you in the coding what's going on. Okay, we have another example here. I'll try to copy this one first. So this is copy here. Okay, so my class comes here. This is my class, personal information, it's closed. All right, so what's inside this class? I have the private section first. So, sorry. The private section, I have two parameters here. This is the public section here. Inside the public section, I have the constructor. I have my own constructor. I will copy. So what I have to do here, I reserve a memory because it's a pointer here. So I need a memory based on the size. Then I have to make assignment for the edge. So I'll copy. All right. So this is copy constructor, what you have used before. Copy constructor is used when you make assignment object 1 equal object 2. So the copy constructor will be called. Okay, this is the copy constructor here. I have string copy here. Then, it's almost very similar to this one, but this is the copy constructor. It will be called when you have some kind of assignment. All right, so you have the destructor here to delete the memory that you have allocated for the name. Okay, so what we have here, we have the accessor here. So all this will be inside the class. So we have the accessor. So will be constant here. Okay, this is the getter, and here return the edge. Okay, we have to get functions. So what we have here, overload. Yeah, this is the main point here. Okay, so this is my class. Will end here. Okay, so this is the overloaded operator. What I have to do based on the definition, I have to use the void, then the operator equal. Constant is very similar to the copy constructor. So you are using constant, the class name, and the reference. So it's very identical. Okay, so this is the name of my object. All right, so what you have to do here, you have to delete the object name, which was created by the default constructor. Then what you have to do, you have to allocate new memory. Then you have to set tag. Okay, you see here these three lines identical. Allocate memory, copy, and set the edge. Allocate memory, copy, and set the edge. Allocate memory, copy, and set. Three lines are identical in both the constructor, the copy constructor, and the overloaded operator. So now in the main, we don't have the main here. This is the main here. I have object. So I will replace this one. So I have the first one. Okay, so I will deactivate this one temporarily. So what I'm doing here, I'm calling the constructor. So I'm passing two values, the age and the name. So I'm expecting this constructor will be called. If I make cout here, cout constructor called. So this is my constructor here, constructor called. All right. So this is inline. So now if I execute, I'm calling this constructor. I will execute here. Sorry, I have character, a constructor called. You have wearing here. Okay, so constructor called. So this object created, so I'm calling this constructor. So now I have to create another object, object 2, but now object 2 equal is look for the definition. Object 2 equal object 1 or person 1. So now which one will be called? Now the copy constructor will be called. So if I make it here. So inside the copy constructor, so now copy constructor called. Why? Because I'm using the equal here. So you can see now what's going on. So first, not the default, my constructor called, then copy constructor called. Clear right now? I don't call this one right now. I just calling the constructor and the copy constructor. So now if I make it like this, person1, person2 again equal person2, I will print out inside this. So inside this I will make it overloaded operator called. So overloaded operator called. Okay, so I'll execute. Okay, so you see the constructor, the copy constructor, and the overloaded operator. There, this point how to call it. So once, because if you don't have this one, now, this assignment will not be correct. This will be wrong. So it will be error. You cannot make object equal object. It's not error, but it's not executed at all. So this assignment now, if you want to print out what's inside here, so nothing called here. So I will just to highlight what's going on here. To print out, I'll make C out. I don't have the getter here. String copy. We have the getter here. Okay, I'll call the getter. So C out for person1 dot get the name first. So I will make it like this. So now this is B1 person1 name. Okay, so what's next here? We have person1. I need this line all. Okay, so B1 edge. So this is the edge. So this will be the edge here. Okay, get. All right, so this is incline. So now person1 here after the first line. So I don't have person2. I have person2 here. This is person2. Person2, person2. This one, person2 again here. But to make it clear, let me define another object. I will call it person3. This is person3. Whatever the name is, just temporary name. The edge is 10. All right, so this is person3 to make it clear for you. So now person2 will take the values of person3. So this is person2, person2. So let us see if this operator is okay. You'll see the values of person3. All right, so I'll execute here. So first, the constructor called for person1. This is the constructor. Then we have to call the constructor again for person3. Then we have to call this is print out. Where is the print out? Yeah, this is print out. This is the name, and this is the age for person1. Then we have to call the copy constructor here. So the copy constructor will be called here. Okay. After that, what's going on? I need to print out cout B2. This is B2. B2 now equal B1, which is similar. Now B3 B3 equal B4. Okay, so this is %2. After updating, it will take the values of B3. This should not happen because I'm deactivating this one. I don't know, maybe the execution file is loaded, but I'll try with different operator, which is plus. Operator %2 equal %+3, whatever. Because I execute earlier, so this is, I think, in the compiler. Because without this, you cannot make direct overloading. Maybe the constructor, default constructor, if I deactivate this one without the copy constructor, but if the copy constructor called, it will be shown here. All right, anyhow, this is the key idea, how to make object equal object. This is the key idea of equal. We have another operators. You can see that it's how we can make it. We have the minus, object 1 minus object 2, how you can do it. So you need to overload this operator. So let me show you. This is my class here. All right, so I need to close. Any question before I move on? So for these operators, equal, plus, minus, you have to overload like this. Otherwise, you cannot work with objects. So now I have to create another class point. So we have the minus. Now we are overloading the minus. So we are using the same definition, constant. But now I'm returning values because it's minus. Something minus something will return some values. But inside, you have to stick to the definition. No change here. So, okay, this is what you have to return. I return the square root. This should be in the same line. Okay, so this is my function. No need this one. This is my private section is here. Okay, so inside the main, what I have inside the main, I have this object here, I display. So inside the main, I have point 1, point 2, then what I have here is point 2 minus point 1. Okay, so I'm expecting the output of point 1 minus point 2. So I'll execute now. Minus C out, there's space here. Okay, we have space here. Okay, or C out, you have space here. C out point 2 is drawing point 2. Different. What's the class name? Point 2 D. Point 1. Okay, so okay, point 1 minus point 2 is drawing here. Point 2D does not name a type. Okay, I execute. Okay, we're drawing here. Okay, right here.
The parameter of the operator.
Uh-huh.
point 2D is like a small b, not
Yes, right. Thank you. This is drawing. Yeah, this is drawing. So I'll execute. The bar. We have to include what for the math. We have C math. Sorry, this is small letter. TH math here. C math. Okay. Okay, so it's trying this function. So no matching. Point one. We need constructor. We need constructor because we are passing two values for this constructor. We have constructor here and no constructor here. Okay, I need to define the constructor. Okay, so I have my constructor here. So this is my constructor. Will take two values of type integer. So this is integer x and integer y. So I will give the initial values for these parameters. So x equal x, y equal y. All right, so now I have the constructor. I'll execute here. All right, so now I need to see the effect of object minus object. What's running here? 0.2, 0.1. So operators, so no match with the operators, and 0.2. Okay, this is B1, this is B2, this is B1, B2 minus B1, B2 minus B1. Okay. B2 minus B1. The operator, I'll define it. So it's minus. Okay, so this one is okay, right? Is okay, is right. The address here, so I'll execute here. So without cout, P2 minus P1. Okay. Expected before. So it's minus. Sorry. This one is cout. This is incline here. I'll try. The minus, you need to add space. Okay, it's 0. So now what's going on here? Equal P2 minus P1. We must get this value. Okay, so it's 2, 2. I need a getter from here to check the assignment. So we need to get points. Get the points. So get point x first. So it will return an integer. So return x. Right, so we need to print out y. So we need to return y here. This is y. Okay, so now I need to check the values. Get y, get x. So B2 and B1. Cout B2. This is B2 dot get point x. Okay, So this is, sorry. Okay, so I have x here. So this is x, p1x, p1x equal. Then I have y here. So this is b1y. I have to get y here. So this is y. Okay, so this is for point 1. I will check. Sorry, I will check for point 2. This is point 2 here. Oh, sorry, this is 1. So this is 2. Okay, this is subtraction after. P2 minus P1. Okay, so 2, 2, 4, 4. I'll check. 0, 0, still 0, 1, 1.
In the for function in the class, maybe you want to put the right dot x in parentheses, like x minus right dot x. Right dot x, maybe you want to put it in a parentheses.
Right.
Line 2.
This one.
Yes, right dot x, maybe you want to put it in parentheses.
I know. Let me try to call it as a function first. Before this, I'll call this one as a function. P2 dot as a function here. Operator 2. I'll pass P1. So now I'm calling as a function. Okay, so but before that, I need to check the values, the initial values for B1, B2. Constructor. Okay. Equal. Okay, I'll execute now. I need inline to see what's going on. I need inline here. So this is inline here, line here. All right, so what's going on? The first one, 0, 0, x equal 1, y equals 0, and the difference is 1. But what's wrong here with the constructor? P1 is 0.2d, it's the same. This is my constructor. Just to make double check, it's the same name, it's the same here. So I'm passing two values to 2. If I change this attribute to be x, x, y, y, so this is equal x, x. I'll check if this constructor called or not. So cout called. All right, so inline. Code. Now I see 2, 2, 4, 4, and this is the value in the slides. 2 are the same. So what's wrong here? This is the name. You have to use different variables. But now I'm calling the overloading operator, but I need to print as it is. So cout, I will make it P2 minus P1. Sorry, P2 minus P1. This is inline here. P2 minus P1. Okay. Now you can call it directly without calling the function. I'm calling as function here, but now this is what I want to implement here. Just you can minus two objects directly. And this is the key idea of overloading the operators. You need these operators to get direct without calling it as a function. I need to execute this operator directly. This is the main point of overloading. Clear? Any question? Any question about the overloading? Why you need overloading for operators?
Can you go up to the class?
In the coding, okay.
Okay. Like in line 11 and 12, what is XX and YY? Okay,
They
that
both. Yeah, this is the wrong. Yeah, this last time I use X, the same X, so it will not initialize same name of variables.
okay.
Yeah,
Thank
welcome. Any question about the key idea of operator overloading? You have to use this syntax. So you have to stick to this one. No change here.
So if we want to use multiple operation, we have to declare multiple, right?
Yeah. Of course, up to you. If you have division here, you have to use the division here, because why we are making this? You need to access these attributes individually. I need to access X, Y. Whatever you do here, it will return. If this one is wrong, it will be wrong. This operation will be wrong if this implementation is wrong. If you don't have this one, the square root or the power, you will get output, but this output will be wrong. So the compiler will don't know, just will call this function. It's just the same for the compiler. If you call it like this, or you make this operator, it's just some kind of calling. Clear this point? So what you
Can we
implement
call,
here, it's up to you.
sir,
Yeah. Mhm.
can we call multiple times? Mean like different types.
At the same time, you need to add and subtract, or what? Multiple times.
We have operator minus and then operator divide in the class.
You need to define first the operator divide, and you need to return object. Later, I'll if you make it minus p3 here, okay?
No,
But
sir.
now,
No.
plus,
If we have like at the top we have double operator minus and then we have double operator divide or anything else. Can we do
I
that?
don't know. It's reserved. You just overload these operators only. Plus, minus, division, what? All these only. You cannot make your own operator.
No. I mean, like we have two of these double operator.
Minus, another implementation here. This one.
But a different operator.
Yes. Of course. You can implement all these operators. You have
Okay.
multiplication. Yeah, you can do it. Just now we have example. Yeah, you can define all. Clear the idea of operator operating. What's going on here? Just instead of calling this function, the compiler will know you need only the operator. So it's the same if you call it or if you use the sign. So now in the case of minus P3, we have P3 here. So we have P3, make it 1. So this is P3 here. So see what's going on here. Okay. Because here, what's wrong here? This one will be executed first, right? From left to right, the precedence, because it's minus. So I'll execute this one first. So what's the output from this one? The output is double, right? Is double. So you cannot make double minus object. So what you need to change, you have to change the output here. You have to return back these values as an object. We'll see later how we can make this. All right, so, okay. I need to return back to my point. Here. Okay, so returning the values. You see now you can make object equal object equal object minus object minus object. This is the point. What you need to return here, you have to return a class, not double, because this will be output from here, object minus object. So what you need to change here. Okay, so if I change here, I will return object, but let me execute this one first to highlight what's going on. We have the this pointer. Before the this pointer, I need to implement this one. Okay, so I will return back object. This object, I need this object instead of double. But before I return here, what I need to do, I need to create an object, temporary object. So this is a temporary object here. So what's the value x for this temporary object? So this temporary object dot x. So dot x, the new x equal what? Equal this. I need to return to the previous one. So this is the previous one. This is x value. So here we have, this is the x value calculated. Okay, so what I need to return? I need to return object here. So we have x here, we have y. So this is y. Clear this point what I'm doing here? Because now I have two objects. The first one, who called this operator on the left side, and the right side, I have the caller. From here, I have B2 and B1. B1 is the right one. It's like this. B1 comes at the right side. So this is B1. So I will do the calculation, but I need to return back an object, not the final value, because now here I replace this one with temp. So now I need to return temp here. So this is x, this is y, this is the final value. Semicolon is okay. All right, so let us try again here. Execution, it is F1. Point two, temp is what's this? Return temp, point two. No matching of function, point two is operator. This is the minus here, point two. So let me look for the definition here. So what you have to do, we need constant first. You have to use the keyword constant before this. Okay. Still constant object key no matching for the call. Okay, so this is as follows, must be constant class name and so this will return temp. If I return as address, okay, still this one, point 2D, what's wrong here? Point 2D, the same name of this class. Sorry, I need to initialize here. I'll give 0, 0, the initial values, then I'll update here. I need to return. Okay, so what's wrong here? Dry dot x, so temp equal. Sorry. We have semicolon wrong. Okay, 38, 24. Okay, temp.x.
not enough brackets.
Missing bracket 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. We have missing bracket. Yes, right. 1, 2, 3. We have missing bracket here. Right. Thank you. This one 2 objects only. This one only 2. Now we have 3 objects. So this one will be B2 minus B1 minus B3 point constant is passing constant as okay. If I execute 2 only. Okay, operators, no matching in constant pointer. Okay, if I make it without constant here, still. So if I return just double here, so I'll return the y. Okay, so I need to return temp as object here. So point 2, I return as object. So this object will be minus. So if I make it like this, B3 equal B2 minus B1. Okay, so now you return first, then okay. So in case of equal, I will change to be equal just to check. Equal sign, this will be equal sign. So I just return, I make it equal, okay, return just object, temporary object. So B3 equal B2 equal B1. I check. So this is syntax for equal. Okay. Okay, something is wrong, I don't know, but this is the key idea. From here, you can make overloading for the operators. Okay, any question before I move to the last idea, which is this pointer. I need to highlight this pointer, which is important before we still have many slides here. I need to highlight this pointer because it's very important. Any question about this one, this example here, what we have executed right now? Okay. So now in the function include as last statement return this. This one is related to this implementation. But let me see here. Yeah, this is implementation for equal. Yeah, you need to return this. Let me try this one. So this is my class is here. This is overloading. I need the class. This is my class. So this is constructor and this is the destructor. Okay. So this is my class is here. Overloading. I need to close the class. Okay. So now what we have here. Okay. This one. Okay, we have this in the main. In the main function. All right. This is person 1, person 2, person 3, and we make assignment. So if we have the getter here, I need the getter. So I will make C out after the assignment. C out for person one first. So person one dot get the name. Then I make some spaces here. Then we have person one dot the edge. So this is get edge. Okay, and line. I'll just repeat for the second and third. Person 2, 3. Okay, this is 3, this is 2. So I will execute, then I will explain what's going on. Okay, what's wrong here? Extra clarification, we have overloaded. Okay, extra. Okay, this is my operator. What's the right syntax here? You have to use the scope of the class. Okay, so this is the syntax. Function declare as follows. Some class constant here. But here, what do you have here? We have constant here, constant here. So string here. Okay, guys, I think I need to check later because the time is already over. So right now here, if you have any question right now until this slide, the rest I will repeat next time. Any question before I end this session? Okay, if no question, yeah. Any question? Okay, thank you. So I need to stop my sharing here. Stop recording.